Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
San Francisco police calling all cars. Attention all cars. Investigate a bombing at the Saints Peter and Paul Church on Filbert Street. Get over there right away. That's all.
Daring, fearless, up-and-coming men who do things invariably prefer Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Police officers, like those portrayed in the following drama, are of this type: courageous, quick to make decisions, quick to act. When they get a call from headquarters, they have to jam down the throttle and go. More police officers use Rio Grande cracked gasoline wherever it is sold than any other brand. Los Angeles, Oakland, Maricopa County, Arizona, and many, many other cities and counties throughout California, Nevada, and Arizona choose Rio Grande cracked gasoline. And they chose Rio Grande cracked gasoline after official competitive tests, and now use it month after month in all police cars, fire engines, ambulances, and other emergency equipment. Doesn't that mean something to you? Rio Grande cracked gasoline starts quicker, accelerates faster, and delivers far more power and speed because it is refined by the famous Sinclair cracking process. It is the only gasoline you can buy that is refined by this patented process. So, if you are the vigorous, hard-hitting type who likes to do things, fill up your tank with Rio Grande cracked gasoline and enjoy the satisfaction of police car performance. After this thrilling crime drama to be enacted immediately, you will hear another announcement that presents a worthwhile opportunity. Wait for it. Meanwhile, remember, for police car performance, use Rio Grande cracked gasoline. We take you now to our San Francisco studios, where you will hear Sheriff Hollenberry, San Francisco County. Sheriff Hollenberry.
Good evening. It has almost been 10 years since the bombing of the St. Peter's and Paul Church in the section of San Francisco known as Little Italy. Yet San Francisco has not forgotten the work of Chief Dan O'Brien and his men in bringing to an end the reign of terror that gripped the citizens of that district. 5 different times the phantom bomber left his deadly package of dynamite on the steps of the church. 4 times his attack was successful. What happened on his 5th visit will be told in a moment in the true dramatization you are about to hear. Before we return you to Los Angeles, however, I should like to say that we of San Francisco are proud of the crime prevention record we have, and especially in the case of the St. Peter's and Paul bombing. The solution of that case was a fine piece of police work.
It is a cold, rain-driven Saturday night in San Francisco. In Little Italy, there are no sounds of gaiety, no late parties, for tomorrow is the feast day of St. Francis de Sales. From somewhere deep in the interior of the church of Saints Peter and Paul on Filbert Street, the deep tones of a clock strike 11. Victor Grafero, the sexton, stands surveying the result of his efforts toward decorating the altar. There is no sound other than the clock to disturb the peace and quiet of the moment. Then, suddenly, an earth-shaking explosion shatters the silence, its deep-throated roar echoing and re-echoing through the nave of the church. Priceless stained glass windows crash to the floor. Plaster rains from the walls and ceilings. In one split second, the interior of the church becomes a shambles. And in houses all through the district, lights suddenly flash on. Half-clad Italians rush out into the street, fear lurking in their eyes, memories of the great quake of 1906, striking sudden terror to their hearts. Then, as suddenly as it began, a deep silence. Grafero, dazed and shaken by the explosion, slowly rises from the floor, stumbles to the back door, out onto the wet cobblestones of the alley. To him, it is altogether too clear what has happened. Someone has bombed his church. And as he stands there, the rain splattering down on his bare head, he breathes a quiet prayer of thanks for his escape. And in police headquarters, the scene is one of complete confusion. Hundreds of calls from terrified residents of the neighborhood pour in through the switchboard. Sleepy-eyed policemen snap into sudden action. Sirens, screaming police cars roar to the scene of the explosion. But upon their arrival, detectives learn nothing that might lead to the bomber. There is no single clue that can be followed. All agree that it's the work of some madman, perhaps some religious fanatic, but nowhere is there a lead as to his identity. And after weeks of inquiry, questioning of hundreds of suspicious characters found in the neighborhood, the investigation slowly cools off. The world forgets the bombing of the Saints Peter and Paul Church. Peace and quiet is restored to Little Italy. Four months later, 3:22 Sunday morning. With no warning, the mad bomber strikes again. And again, as on that wet evening 4 months before, terror strikes the heart of Little Italy. The police are again requested to find the fiend responsible. And as before, there is no trace of him, nothing to work on. 5 months later, another explosion rocks the district. And 3 months after that, another, and this time more powerful one, tears great, ragged holes in the sidewalk, smashes the great door to splinters. The following morning, Chief of Police O'Brien summons 10 of his most trusted detectives to his office.
Men, I'm going to place you on a secret detail. You must tell absolutely no one what it is. Upon that one thing depends the success of the whole plan. Are you willing to be sworn into this trust?
I am.
Yes, good. Now, you're all familiar with the fact that the St. Peter's and Paul Church has been bombed 4 times in the last year. You also know that so far, in spite of all our inquiries, we have no suspects. In fact, we know just about as much as we did when it happened the first time. Now, the job I'm going to give you men is just this. Stop those bombings. We can't risk another one.
How do we do it, Chief?
I've explained the details to Captain Lane. He can pass them on to you and work out the assignments.
Well, now, the plan depends, as Chief O'Brien said, primarily on the fact that no one knows about it. By that, I mean no one, and that doesn't exempt your wives.
My wife would like to know.
Boys, that's going to be the hardest part of your job. Well, now to be serious, here's the idea. You 10 men are going to be stationed at 4 different points in and near the church. You're going to take your posts, and you're going to stay there every night until you nab the fellow who's doing this.
And if he doesn't show up?
He will. There's no reason to suppose he'll stop until he's completed his mission, and that won't be until the church is in complete ruins. I don't think you'll have to wait very long for him, though. The time between each visit has been shorter. He's getting impatient.
A good thing, incidentally. It's liable to make him careless.
I hope he doesn't get careless as one of those bombs. I understand they carry quite a wallop.
Well, the idea is to get him before he gets you, which makes this job dangerous. So dangerous that I'm going to give every one of you a chance to pull out now with no hard feelings. How about it?
What do you mean?
Well, that settles it then. Now, we have established 4 watching points. One in the apartment across from the church, commanding a view of the entire street. Another one in the upstairs window of the church, and one just inside the front door of the church. And the last, which will be the headquarters, is in the parish house next door. There will be telephone communication between each of these 4 points with the buzzer. Each station will have a buzzer number, and when you hear your number, you answer your phone. If you hear a buzzer that isn't your number, listen in anyway and hear what's going on. Now, tonight you men will go to your posts. And from that time on until you catch the bomber, it's up to you. Are there any questions? Good. McInerney?
Yes, sir?
You can pass for a priest, so you let the boys in. Now, here's the key to the parish house. And tonight at midnight, you go through the front door of the church and let the boys in the back way. And then proceed directly to your various stations and keep your eyes open. I think that covers everything. One thing I forgot. Joe Wickstrom.
Yes, sir?
I've got a special job for you, and one that's right up your alley. Now, Chief O'Brien and I figured that the bomber didn't see any guard at the church. He'd get suspicious and beat it. So you're going to be it. You're going to dress up in full uniform and parade up and down in front.
Then why the rest of the boys?
Well, I'm getting to that. You won't be a very efficient guard. In fact, you'll be the sort of a guard that the chief here would break if he saw you.
Uh-huh. I think I began to understand.
Sure. Your main function will be to parade up and down for a couple of hours each night and then get tired or something and apparently sneak away for a nap. You think up some good gag to get out of the way. You've got a reputation on the force for being a clown. Now, here's your chance to make some use of it. So don't let me down.
Thus, at exactly 12 midnight the same evening, Detective McInerney slips silently into the church, makes his way to the extreme back, finds his companions waiting in the alleyway.
Come on, let us see what's the matter with you.
All right, boys. Come on in. And keep quiet.
You got any kind of a light so we can see where we're going?
Can't risk it, do we? We'll just have to be plenty careful and pick our way along the aisle here. I think I can lead the way.
Well, I hope so. I can't see an inch in front of me.
You and me both, Joe.
The main thing's to watch the pews along the aisle here. If you can sort of feel your way along without stumbling on them, you'll be all right.
Everyone's in, Larry. Shall I shut the door?
Yeah. And watch it doesn't squeak on you.
It did.
No, that's all right. No one can hear that. Come on now, follow me. When we get to the front, we'll split and go to our stations.
I'll lead on.
Okay.
We're with you.
Right. Careful there, boys. Come on, quiet, boys. Take your time.
Come over this way.
Look out. All right. Hold it. This is where we separate. You all know your stations?
Yeah, sure we know.
Good. Why don't you go through this door here and up the stairs? Window's right at the top of it.
Right.
DeMette, you and Tom, that door over there leads to the parish house. The priest will show you the window.
Good enough. Let's go, Tom.
Ed, you and Greminger here. There's the phone and the buzzer right by the door. Dewey and I'll go up this way. As soon as we get to our station, we'll buzz and check the phone system.
Okay, Larry. Keep those eyes peeled.
Don't worry. I haven't any more desire to get blown out of here than you have.
So long. See you in the morning, if everything goes well.
Right. Come on, Dewey.
Yeah.
Easy now. Just keep close to me. That's it.
So this is to be our happy little home, huh? Nice roomy spot.
Yeah, it's cramped, all right.
Well, at least it'll keep us from getting sleepy at the wrong time. That's something.
Yeah.
You gonna buzz the phone?
Yeah, right now. I hope it works.
Reminger. Station 1.
Hello, Joe. McInerney speaking. Just making a check on the phones. Hang up and see if you can hear the others as I ring them.
Okay, Larry. Ring ahead.
DeMatti speaking, Station 2.
Hello, DeMatti. McInerney speaking. Testing the phone. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, fine. Clear as a bell.
Good. Hang on and listen while I check the other stations. See if you can hear us.
Right.
What's up?
Just checking phones, that's all.
Great idea, these phones. Makes everything hunky-dory.
Yeah, as long as they work.
Sims Harry.
Wait a minute, let me listen.
Station 3.
McInerney, testing phones.
Sounds fine here.
Good. Keep the phone open.
Okay, Larry.
I can hear the others talking on the line.
Anything doing?
No, just testing.
Lennon, Station 4.
Okay, Lennon. McInerney, testing the phones.
Yeah, there's Lennon over at 4.
Everything's fine here, Larry.
Okay. I'm going to ring off now. Keep your eyes open.
Don't worry.
If the rest of you stations can hear me, check back as soon as I hang up. Start with 1 and follow in numerical order. That's all.
Keep your eyes on the street, Tom. I got to check back with Larry as soon as Station 1 is finished.
Okay.
There's Greminger up at 1 ringing.
McInerney, Station 5.
Reminger at 1, checking back.
Okay, Joe, that's all.
Right.
I'm going to buzz Larry.
So, one after another, the 5 stations check and recheck the elaborate phone communicative system. Find all in perfect working order. Settle down to the long vigil ahead of them. And in the street outside the church, Detective Joe Wickstrom paces slowly up and down, to all observers an obviously tired guard, not too enthusiastic over his job.
What a job, walking around by myself like a night watchman. 1 o'clock and all's well along the Filbert Street front. What a life.
Good evening, officer. Cold enough for you?
Yeah, plenty cold.
You've certainly a lonely job here. I don't envy you at all.
All a part of the night's work, ma'am. I got to admit I've known better jobs.
You watching the church?
Yes, and that's the main idea. But just between you and me and the lamppost, I don't see much sense to it.
It seems to me there's a lot of sense to it, officer. What with all the bombings and all that's been going on, about time the police did something about it.
That's what the chief says. Maybe he's right. I still don't see the idea.
Well, come along, my dear. We can't stand here all night talking to an officer.
Good night.
Good night, ma'am. Night, sir.
Night. Not a very conscientious officer, if you were to ask me.
He didn't seem overly enthusiastic about his work, did he?
That's the trouble with this police force. The men are lax, inefficient. Now, when I was in the army... it was...
George, look back at that officer. Is that a flask he's holding in his hand?
What? By heavens, I believe it is.
He's drinking from it. An officer on duty, openly drinking. Why, I never heard of anything so disgraceful in all my life.
I have a good mind to report him.
I think you'd be in the right, too, George. After all, we do pay taxes and things that go for their salary.
We do indeed. Matter of fact, I not only have a mind to report him, I think I will. Come along, my dear. I shall telephone from the first available place.
Thus, so well does actor Detective Joe Wickstrom, with his coffee-filled flask, carry out his role of slipshod guard the very first night a complaint is phoned into headquarters. And so it goes, night after night of nerve-wracking watching, days spent at home sleeping. In the minds of each of the 10 men, one single thought: get the bomber and end the vigil. But the nights drag on, and no attempt is made to bomb the church. 6, 7, 8, 9 nights. Still no alarm to break the monotony of the 10 weary men's vigil. It is the 10th evening of constant surveillance. In the apartment across from the church, Detective Sidney Du Bois and James Simseri sit, staring into the empty street, lighting cigarettes one after the other, striving to keep alert.
10 nights. 10 nights of just sitting and staring out that window. It's enough to drive a guy screwy.
Oh, take it easy, Sid. We may be here for 10 more, or even 10 more after that.
I hope not. It's getting so I imagine I see things out there in the street. My eyes are beginning to play tricks on me.
You better see if you can't grab a snooze. I'll keep watching.
No. I'll be all right. Just the nerves jumping around in me. You got another cigarette?
Sure. Help yourself.
Thanks. I'll get a light off this butt.
I know how you feel, Sid. I'm getting jumpy myself lately. You know, I could have sworn I saw somebody over by the church door a few minutes back. Then when I got ready to ask you to look, I couldn't see anything anymore. Gives you a funny feeling in your insides, doesn't it?
You said it. Makes you want to get up and yell all of a sudden.
Only that wouldn't be such a good...
What's the matter?
Shh, wait a minute.
See someone?
I think so. Look down the street there. Is that someone coming this way? Or...
Yeah.
Keep your eyes on him. I'm going to buzz McInerney. What's he doing?
Still coming this way. Looks like he's carrying something under his coat.
McInerney.
Suspicious character approaching church. Be on your guard.
Right. Keep me posted.
He's heading across the street for the church.
Watch it, Larry. He's heading for the front door.
We're ready. Can't see him from here yet.
Repinger speaking. Station 1. We're ready here.
Good.
He's at the steps.
Okay, Simsari. I can see him now. I've got a gun on him.
Shall we bust out and nab him?
No. Wait till we see what he does.
He's going up the steps. You'd better nab him before something happens. You'd better nab him.
Easy, Sid. Larry has a gun on him.
But if he has a bomb there, he'll blow the boys to bits. He's liable to let it go any second.
Easy.
Look, he's kneeling down. Looks like he's praying or something.
Relax, boys. It's a false alarm.
Larry says it's a false alarm.
Yeah. The guy's just kneeling there praying.
Let me look. Whew. Yeah, there he is, getting up.
He's leaving. Man, what a start that gave me.
You and me both, Sid. I think my heart stopped for good.
So the first activity in 10 nights turns out to be no more than a devout Catholic stopping to offer his prayers. Nerves stretched to the breaking point suddenly ease off. Faces lose their mask-like expressions. Silence settles on the 5 stations once again. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and still the 10 detectives stay at their posts. And as the weeks drag by in each man's heart, the conviction becomes stronger. The phantom bomber has disappeared.
If you ask me, the guy decided he'd done enough damage and left town.
Maybe the phantom bomber's wise to the trap we've set.
This business is getting on my nerves. Why doesn't he bring his bomb and get it over with?
My eyes are playing tricks.
I thought I saw something.
It can't go on much longer.
My wife's going to leave me if something doesn't happen soon.
Thoughts running crazily through tired minds, bodies aching from cramped positions, and still the endless watch continues. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Sabbath. In the apartment window across from the church, Sinceri and Du Bois listen to the ticking of a clock, count the ticks as the minutes turn into hours.
You awake, Sid?
Yeah,
I couldn't tell. You haven't moved for an hour.
I was listening to the clock. I got it all figured out how many ticks there are to an hour. I'm going to figure out how many there are in a 12-hour day next.
Yeah, that is if you don't go bats first.
All right. How much is 12 times 7,200?
I wouldn't know, Sid. I never was much at arithmetic.
Well, that's how many ticks there are to a day if I can multiply that far.
Hey, why don't you give the clock up in favor of the spots on the wallpaper? I've counted them 5 times now, and I get a different answer every time.
Why don't we give this whole thing up and start living normal lives again?
That's simple. Because we stay here until we get our bomber friend. Any more questions?
Seriously, though, Jimmy. How long do you think this thing is going to last?
I can't answer that one. In fact, I've tried not to think about it. Doesn't do any good.
If only something would happen. I think I'd even welcome a bomb at this point.
Oh, no, thanks. Not for this one. I've seen what bombs do to people who get in their way. You know, they don't leave much to take home to Mother.
Yeah, I've seen the results of bombs, too. Not very pleasant when you come to think about it. I remember once when I was over on...
That's us. Station 3. Sinceri speaking.
Keep your eye on the street, Jimmy. There's 2 men coming this way from Powell Street. You'll be able to spot them in a minute.
Okay. A couple of birds coming this way, Sid. Stand by.
Right.
You on the line, Larry?
Sure thing. Keep me posted.
I can't see them yet. Wait a minute. Yeah, now I can.
One of them's carrying something.
Yeah, I can see it. Hey, Larry.
Yes?
They're right below me now, and they've stopped. Looks like they're talking together.
One of them's starting across the street for the church.
Stand by, Larry. One of them's heading for the steps. He's got something under his arm.
Watch him, Jimmy. If he starts running, let him have it.
Right. He's starting up the steps now.
Okay. I see him now. Stand by, Greminger. All stations ready to attack.
Slowly, the man in the street starts up the 13 concrete steps, unaware of the 3 pairs of eyes glued on him from the church windows, of the 2 pairs from across the street. Slowly, cautiously, the dark figure edges on deep into the shadows of the church portals. Then, suddenly, he stops, casts a quick look around, then stoops and places a bundle on the concrete. With amazing speed, he strikes a match, applies it to a fuse sticking out of the mysterious bundle, and simultaneously, McInerney throws open the window above, barks a sudden command.
Stand where you are. That got him. Come on, get out of here, Kaufman.
Come on. We got to get that bomb before it goes off. The fuse is almost gone. I'll get that.
There goes the other one. Hold off, fire! You get the bomb, Joe?
Yeah, just in time, too. Look.
Good Lord. An inch more and we'd been blasted off the earth.
Yeah, and then some.
Let's go over and see that fellow DeMatty just winged. He's lying in the gutter across the street.
Okay.
Nice work, boys. You made short work of that other bird. He's dead as they make him. This one's still kicking, though. Well, what was the idea of bombing the church, buddy?
I had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it at all.
And what were you doing with that other bird who had the bomb?
I was not with him. God sent me here to the church. I had nothing to do with it.
He's as crazy as a loon. I'll get an ambulance out here to pick him up.
Right.
Well, it looks like we put an end to our bombing, friend.
Yeah, and I don't mind telling you I'm not sorry about it.
I guess every one of us feels the same way. But there's one thing about it. In spite of the long wait, it was worth it. Worth every second of it. To get rid of the bomber and put an end to this reign of terror. I, for one, say thank the Lord it's over.
And I, for one, will now go home and introduce myself to my wife.
And now we take you once more to our northern studios, where you will hear District Attorney Matthew Brady of San Francisco County. Mr. Brady.
Thus, the apprehension, trial, and sentencing of the phantom bomber were dispensed with in a few seconds by San Francisco police without further cost to the county. The bullet-riddled corpse was identified as that of G. Rickey, a religious fanatic. His accomplice, the man across the street, died from his wounds a few weeks later, and the police records were closed. The 10 detectives whose daring solved the bombings were each given 2 weeks' vacation by the police commission and a gold badge for distinctive service by Mayor Rolfe. Once again, the faithful congregation of the Church of Saints Peter and Paul began to climb the 13 steps to worship without fear.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Perhaps these police dramas affect you as they affect this listener who recently wrote in.
So many calling all cars programs that now every time I hear a siren, either on the air or on the street, I say to myself, there goes some police car performance. I said it jokingly at first. Then I tried Rio Grande cracked gasoline myself. Now I'm serious when I say it is absolutely everything you claim it is. No wonder the police cars use it.
Every time you hear a siren, a fire engine, or an ambulance, let it remind you, too, that there goes some police car performance. And that you can have the very same performance in your car by driving into the Rio Grande Independent Service Station just down the street. There you can get the same Rio Grande cracked gasoline that powers more police cars and other emergency equipment wherever it is sold than any other brand. Your Rio Grande dealer will also give you free a toy police money with your change, which you can trade for junior police badges, handcuffs, fingerprinting sets, bracelets, G-Man pistols, and other valuable gifts to make some boy or girl happy, and a full-fledged member of Rio Grande's Junior Police Department. Ask for a copy of Calling All Cars News and learn all about it. This is the opportunity to make some youngster happy without it costing you a cent. As you get acquainted with your Rio Grande dealer, you will discover that he also sells a motor oil as fine as you can buy anywhere on earth. Sinclair, Pennsylvania. It is thoroughly de-waxed and de-jellied in the world's largest refinery, located in the heart of the Bradford Allegheny field, recognized as the source of the best, the most expensive lubricating crude in Pennsylvania. Yet it costs you no more than motor oils refined from cheaper Pennsylvania crude.
San Francisco police calling all cars, attention all cars, a cancellation broadcast 152 regarding the bombings of the St. Peter and Paul Church on Filbert Street. Suspect in this case killed while trying to escape. That's all.
This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company. Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars, attention all cars, broadcast 153. Be on the lookout for 2 men working a bunco racket. These men are thought to be borrowing large sums of money on unowned property. That's all. Rosenquist.
The Rio Grande Oil Company wishes to express its appreciation to the thousands of independent dealers throughout this territory who have contributed so largely to the amazing success of Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Primary credit is due, of course, to the superiority of the gasoline itself. Refined by the famous patented Sinclair cracking process, it combines a balanced ratio of instant starting, fast acceleration, and surging power. City and county purchasing agents make tests of gasoline before they buy. They are not influenced by showy service stations and extravagant advertising claims. As a result, more police cars, fire engines, ambulances, and other emergency equipment are powered by Rio Grande cracked gasoline wherever it is sold than by any other brand. Police car performance. That's what city and county equipment must have. And that's why Los Angeles, Oakland, Maricopa County, Arizona, and many, many other cities and counties are using Rio Grande cracked gasoline exclusively. The man who has repeated this story of police car performance to you motorists is the independent Rio Grande service station operator, and our hats are off to him in appreciation. His enthusiasm, courtesy, and desire to render the finest service you can get in your neighborhood has benefited us all. Drive into the station tomorrow and try the thrill of police car performance. Now, once again, it is our pleasure to present Chief James E. Davis of the Los Angeles Police Department. Chief Davis.
Good evening, friends. Tonight you will hear the story of two men who thought they could outsmart society as well as the police by working a racket as old as the well-known Army game. Theirs was a cleverly worked-out plan, with every detail rechecked until it looked foolproof. But, as in 99 out of 100 cases of this type, they made just enough small mistakes to eventually bring them to our bunco squad's attention. From that time on, theirs was a losing game. Detectives assigned to the case by Captain Canto, commanding the bunco detail, watched them slowly but surely walk right into the trap laid for them. And when the trap was sprung, there were two more criminals who had learned too late the fact that they could defy society just so long and no longer, that in the end they could not win.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we take pleasure in presenting as guest artist Miss Esther Ralston, lovely star of many motion pictures, who has just completed work on Reunion, 20th Century Fox's latest vehicle with the Dion quintuplets. In tonight's story, Miss Ralston portrays the part of Cynthia Merrill. Hollywood, the melting pot of the world. Here, in the glare of the mighty lights, comedy and tragedy go hand in hand. Men and women from all parts of the globe build dream castles. Watch them crash at their feet. Hollywood and a small bungalow apartment. In the tiny parlor, garishly decorated with pictures of famous movie stars, a man and a woman facing each other. Facing Hollywood.
I'm sorry, Jim. I hoped this wouldn't happen, and now it has.
So, what are we going to do about it?
I told you how I feel.
You mean you won't give it up? You mean that all this tinsel is more important to you than our marriage?
Jim,
You're trying to tell me that the only thing you want right now is fame as an actress.
It isn't just that. It's now that I've come so close to getting there, I can't just throw it over. Tomorrow they're testing me at the studio for a part that might make all the difference in the world. If you'd only try to understand how I feel about it, Jim.
How about you're trying to see the way I feel about it, Sin? What kind of a marriage is this? Living in a 2x4 flat, eating, sleeping, breathing studio talk. You suppose I'm living on a bed of roses?
But as soon as I hit, we won't have to live this way.
You'll be able to support both of us, eh? And I can become Cynthia Marrow's husband, I suppose. The Queen's husband. No, thanks. It won't work, Cynthia. It can't work that way.
If you weren't so unreasonable, it could work.
I know. I'm the one that's unreasonable. I'm a stubborn, selfish so-and-so, and I can't see beyond the end of my nose. All right. I still say you're going to make up your mind what you want to do. Go on with this idiotic idea of yours, or be my wife and get out of this town where we can settle down as human beings again.
Is there more to that, or have you finished?
Well, there's a lot more I could say. It'd only be wasting words.
I see. I'm not intelligent enough to understand you. Is that what you mean?
You know perfectly well that isn't what I mean.
Why don't you say what you'd like to and get it over with? I imagine I can stand it.
You know what you're doing right this minute, Sin? You're just asking for trouble. You're deliberately baiting me because you know I can't stand to hear you talking that way.
Nonsense.
It isn't nonsense. It's... Oh, all right. I give up. You know when you hit below the belt, don't you? You know just how and when to do it. And you know why you can do it, too, don't you? Because for some reason I can't explain, in spite of everything, I couldn't get along without you. That's what makes me so mad when you start acting with me.
That being the case, Jim, why don't you just drop this whole thing and let me see what I can do? I promise you if I don't make the grade, I'll give it all up.
No. This is going to be one time that's different. You're going to make up your mind tonight one way or the other. And when you do, it's going to stick. One way or the other.
Do you really mean that, Jim? I'm to give up my career or clear out? All right, then. I've made my decision. I'm clearing out, and I'm clearing out right now.
Cynthia.
Don't Cynthia me. You asked for it. Now you're going to get it. I'm not a child. I can take care of myself.
How?
I don't know, but don't worry. I can. Hollywood doesn't frighten me.
Oh, listen, Sin. Be sensible. You haven't anywhere to go tonight. You can't just walk out into the rain and find a place.
No? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do as soon as I pack this suitcase. Up to this point, I thought you were bluffing with all this talk of yours. But now that I see which way the wind blows, I see a lot of other things.
For instance?
Well, for instance, the fact that... Oh, what's the use? It would be a waste of words.
Thanks.
You're welcome. There.
You really mean this, then?
You bet your sweet life I do. Now, if you don't mind, would you allow me to get past you and out the door?
Of course.
Thank you. When you come to your senses, let me know. Good night.
So, movie-struck Cynthia walks out of her house into the drizzling rain, and Jim alone spends the next 2 hours walking the floor, wrestling with his problem. Then reaches for the phone, dials a number, holds a hurried conversation. And 30 minutes later...
Mr. Merrill?
Yes.
I'm the private detective you sent for. Donato's the name.
Oh, how do you do? Now, come on in out of the rain.
Thanks.
I hadn't realized it was raining so hard. Nasty night.
Not the pleasantest I've ever known. Sort of unusual weather for California.
Yeah, of course. Now, come on in and have a chair, Mr. Donato. I'll try to explain the situation in as few words as possible.
This isn't a matter for the police by any chance, is it?
Police? Oh, no, not at all. Well, to be frank with you, I've just had a quarrel with my wife, and she's walked out on me. I don't know where she's gone or who she might be with, anything about her. I'm going crazy worrying about it.
I see. Sort of domestic difficulties?
Well, you see, Cynthia, that's my wife. She's nuts on the idea of being a great actress. Thinks she's got what it takes and all that. You know how it is.
Yes, I know how it is, Mr. Merrill. In fact, I'd say roughly that 3 out of every 4 cases of domestic trouble I run into are caused by more or less the same thing. It's a chronic Hollywood disease.
Well, what I want you to do is to find her for me.
Have any idea where she is?
No.
Nice, simple beginning. Well, go ahead.
Well, when you find her, I thought you could sort of keep an eye on her and let me know what she does.
Tell me one thing, Mr. Merrill, before we go any further. Is there another man in this?
Oh, I don't think so. In fact, I'd stake my bottom dollar there isn't.
That, at least, is unusual.
Why,
I mean, as far as these things go.
Oh. Well, it's just the fool movie bug that's responsible for this. And I know if she gets out wandering around, she'll get into some kind of trouble. That's what's driving me crazy.
I think I see what you want, all right. A daily report of her activities when and if I can locate her for you, right?
Well, I guess that's it. What I want is to hear that you found her and that she's all right. Will you let me know about that part of it as soon as you get news?
I certainly will, Mr. Merrill. I don't know just where I'll get wind of her, but if you'll give me a picture of her and some details of her recent activities, I think I can manage it.
Fine. Anything you want to know, I'll tell you. The main idea is find my wife.
So, Private Detective DiDonato and Cynthia's husband discussed the situation far into the night. And Cynthia, wet, cold, her stubbornness fighting a desperate battle with her desire to return home and admit defeat, she spends the night drinking endless cups of coffee and open all-night greasy spoons. And in the morning, the final blow. At the studio, a well-meaning casting director calls her into the office, talks to her.
Oh, in order to save you a lot of time, I've decided to be frank with you, Cynthia. I haven't got a chance in the world. Well, a swell kid and all that, but it takes more than that to make the grade in this business.
I think I get it. You mean I can't act?
Well, if that's the way you want to say it. Listen, kid, don't take it so hard. There's lots of other ways to make a living. It's a pretty tough racket, especially for a girl. If I were you, I'd just forget pictures and get interested in something else.
Sure, just like that. Well, thanks for giving it to me straight anyway. I appreciate it. Only, it's kind of a jolt at this particular moment. Don't worry, I'll get along all right.
Sure you will. You've got what it takes, kid.
For anything but pictures. I know. Goodbye, Mr. Elliott. For further details, read your morning papers.
So Cynthia finds herself with a choice of two things: admit defeat and go home to Jim, or take the first job she can land, doing anything. And after a day spent in answering want ads, trudging from this place to that and back again, her luck takes a sudden turn for the better. Takes her to a house on Crest Hill Road, where she lands a job as personal secretary with 2 attorneys. One stipulation of the job gives her a moment of panic when she learns that she's to live in a small house adjoining that of her employers. But the thought of Jim gloating over his victory if she goes home supplies the needed courage. And so, nervous but determined, Cynthia Marrow accepts the job, moves in. A week goes by. A week in which Cynthia discovers some strange things about her new position. There seems to be nothing for her to do. No letters to write. No phone calls to answer. None of the things she was hired to do. And a sudden uneasiness grows within her. Then, one night, as she is talking to her employers, the answer is revealed.
I have a little job you can do for me tomorrow, Miss Marrow. It's vitally important to me.
Yes, Mr. French?
I want you to go downtown with me to a loan company.
Yes?
And I want you to be a Mrs. Crandall.
Mrs. Crandall?
Right, Mrs. Crandall.
But I don't see quite what...
It isn't necessary that you see anything. The important point is that you are a Mrs. Sarah Crandall, that you own the property at 2128 Crest Hill Road, and that you sold it to a party by the name of Victor French about 2 months ago.
Victor French? Well, that's your name.
Exactly.
But, Mr. French, I can't do that. It would be breaking the law.
That is our business, Miss Merrill, not yours.
But, Mr. Denton, it is my business. I was hired as a secretary.
You were hired to do what we wanted you to do. Mr. French has just told you what that is.
Well, I won't do it. I thought there was something funny about this whole thing. Now I see what it is.
And now that you see, you'll do exactly as we say.
Oh, no, I won't. I'm not going to let you drag me into a mess.
You're going to do exactly as we say. But I might as well tell you, Miss Merrill, that Mr. French and I are not in the habit of speaking lightly. I cannot impress upon your mind too strongly the fact that you will do as we instruct. And you will not say anything to anyone about it. Do I make myself clear?
And if I don't do as you say, Mr. Denton?
Then I am afraid you will be sorry. Intensely sorry.
So Cynthia returns to her room, fear clutching her throat, her mind whirling with the realization that she has walked into a spider's web, that her employers are not attorneys but criminals, capable of doing anything. And it is while she is sitting on the edge of her bed, thinking desperately, on the verge of tears from sheer fright, that a sudden noise at the outside door turns her heart to ice.
Mrs. Morrow?
Who is it?
I'm a detective, ma'am. I've got to talk to you in a hurry.
Detective, but...
Please, Mrs. Morrow, don't waste any time.
All right, just a second. What do you want?
Come out here where we can talk. I'll explain in a minute.
But I don't see what...
Mrs. Marrow, if your friends in the house see us talking here, there'll be trouble. Now, please don't ask questions until we get up the street a ways. I'll explain everything then.
All right. I'll come.
We'll go up here out of the light.
How did you know my name was Mrs. Merrill?
I've been watching for you a week. I heard every word those men said tonight. Now, will you believe me when I say that I'm here to help you?
I'd like to.
All right. We can talk here without being seen. Now, look, Mrs. Marrow, I know you're in a jam, and I know that you're going to be in a worse one unless we act quickly. Will you do just as I say and not ask any questions?
But I don't understand what you're doing here. Why are you watching me?
That's unimportant at the moment. Will you do as I ask?
Yes.
Good. Now, tomorrow, you go with those men and do exactly what they say to do. Don't cross them up in any way.
But I don't...
Please. After you've done all that, figure out when you can get away from here for an hour or so. You can do that, can't you?
I think so.
Good. Now, when you've figured it out, call me at this number. I'll meet you, take you to my office, where we can make plans. Now, will you do that?
I'll try. But I can't understand all this. Where you came from and why you're watching me.
I'll tell you all that when I see you at my office. But now we've got to be careful, very careful.
All right. I'll do my best. And I don't know who you are, but thank you.
Well, that's all right. I have a good reason for it. And don't lose that telephone number. I'll be waiting for a call. The following day, Cynthia accompanies French to the loan company, follows his instructions to the word, returns to the house on Crest Hill Road. She has no opportunity to call Di Donato that night, but the following morning she tells French she has some shopping to do, secures permission to go downtown for the morning. A hurried phone call brings the private detective in his car, and a few minutes later, they enter his office. Mrs. Merrill, this is Mr. Molyneux and Mr. Ryan. They work with me.
How do you do?
How do you do? How are you? Sit down.
Thank you.
Now, I want you to repeat exactly what Mr. French told you the other night, and also what you did yesterday at that loan company.
Well, Mr. French told me that I was to say I was a Mrs. Crandall, and I told him I wouldn't. Then Mr. Denton told me I'd have to. And when I repeated that I wouldn't, he threatened me.
In what way, ma'am?
Well, he didn't say what he'd do if I didn't, but it was the look on his face and the implication that made me realize what I'd gotten mixed up in.
Well, suppose you tell us just what it is that they're doing.
Well, I'm not sure myself. But yesterday at the loan company, I had to sign a deed of some kind, saying that I had sold the property on Hillcrest to Mr. French. That is, that I, as Mrs. Crandall, had. And Mr. French and the man there talked about a loan. And from what I gathered, Mr. French and Mr. Denton are borrowing on the property they're living on.
And you don't think they own it?
No, I'm sure they don't.
Yeah, it's all pretty clear what they're up to, eh, Molyneux? It looks that way. Mrs. Merrill, we're here to help you. We're going to. You've got to help us.
But how?
By going ahead with this idea. Doing everything these men want you to.
But I'm afraid. Supposing the police get onto this and arrest me, what do I do then?
You don't have to worry about that, ma'am. You see, we are the police.
What? I thought you said you were a private detective.
I am, Mrs. Marrow, but these gentlemen are Lieutenants Molyneux and Ryan of the Los Angeles Police Bunco Squad.
Then you already knew about this?
Well, Mr. Di Donato called us in after he talked to you the other night, Mrs. Merrill. You see, we've known each other for some time, and when he saw that this was a criminal case, he turned it over to us.
But, I don't understand this whole thing anyway. No one has told me anything except what to do.
I guess it's my turn now, Mrs. Marrow. You see, I was hired to keep an eye on you, sort of see that you didn't get into trouble.
Jim hired you.
Well, I'm not at liberty to answer that, but the idea is that I was watching you from the time you left the studio to the time I talked to you the other night.
And you've been spying on me, is that it?
Oh, I wouldn't be too hasty about this, ma'am. How would you be if Mr. Di Donato hadn't been watching you, hadn't been there to help you out? What would you have done then?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't think. It was just the idea of being spied on that made me lose my temper.
That's all right, ma'am. I'm used to that.
And you want me to go back to that house and pretend to fall in with their plans? Is that right?
Exactly.
All right. I'll do it. But there's one thing I'm going to ask.
Yes?
That no one, and that includes my husband, knows of this.
There'll be no publicity as far as we're concerned.
And then I'll do it.
Splendid. We appreciate your cooperation, Mrs. Merrill.
Oh, I'm glad to help, only
Only what, ma'am?
only I can tell you this. I'm going to be scared to death every minute from now on.
Cynthia Merrill returns to the Crest Hill house, her mind whirling. And Lieutenants Molyneux and Ryan lose no time setting the wheels of the law into motion. They assign 2 men to stake the Crest Hill house, spend the rest of the day and all night poring over musty files in the record bureau, make plans for a foolproof trap And by morning, they are in possession of the following facts.
Past records show both French and Denton to have been arrested before on forgery and attempted extortion. The deed of sale on the Crest Hill property has already been forged by Denton. Evidently, the loan company needed only the substantiation of Mrs. Crandall, the past owner, to complete the transaction.
A checkup with the loan company reveals the fact that it will be a matter of 3 days to a week before the final approval can be secured and the check issued. And acting upon this, Lieutenants Molyneux and Ryan interview a bewildered official at the loan company's offices. Give instructions.
But Lieutenant, if these men are swindlers, why do you want us to give them the check? I don't understand.
Because if you go right ahead, just we're all in the up and up, and don't scare them off. The minute you hand over the check, we'll knock them over.
But supposing something goes wrong and they get checked, but you miss them.
We're not in the habit of missing people we want.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. Well, it strikes me as risky business, handing out good money to crooks.
Look. Is there any way that the signature on the check might be just wrong enough to keep them from cashing it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, isn't that a clever thought?
It could be done, then.
Oh, certainly. Easiest thing in the world.
Well, that's the answer to your worry. As soon as the check is ready, let us know. Then notify French and Denton of the fact. When they come to get it, we'll do the rest.
Returning to headquarters, Molyneux and Ryan lay their plans before Captain Canto, head of the bunco squad. Secure 5 men to assist them. 2 are sent to the Crest Hill house with orders to watch French and Denton day and night and report every move. The other 3 are staked out in front of the loan company building. Then, with final plans made, Molyneux and Ryan settle down to await developments. 2 days pass. Nothing happens. 3 days. 4 days. And then on the morning of the 5th, a hurried phone call from one of the detectives at the Crest Hill house.
I think something's up, Lieutenant. There's another fellow around here, a young kid with a car. Looks as though they were getting ready to go somewhere.
Good. Don't lose sight of them for a second. Call me back at either this number or the one I'll give you now if anything breaks.
Okay.
Write this down. It's a stakeout in the drugstore across from the loan company. Normandy 5270.
Normandy 5270. Got it.
Well, don't lose it.
Don't worry, I won't.
In company with his partner, Ryan, Molyneux loses no time in making final arrangements. Then the 2 of them proceed to the drugstore, where they plan to watch for the suspect's arrival.
Well, unless I miss my guess, things ought to start happening before long.
I hope you're right. I hate to have anything go haywire at this point.
I'll get it.
Okay.
Hello?
Ryan?
Yeah.
French and the girl have just left the house. They got a car and some kid driving them.
Good. How about Denton?
He's still at the house.
That's not so good. Wonder what the idea is, leaving him behind.
I can't tell. I'll call you if he leaves.
All right. Goodbye.
Oh, what's up?
French and the girl are on the way down. They left Denton at the house. Something screwy.
That's queer. I figured they'd try to get the check cashed and then beat it out of town. This Denton angle doesn't fit that idea.
Hold everything.
Right.
Hello?
Ryan?
Yeah.
This has got to be fast. Denton's getting ready to leave. He's waiting on the corner here for a bus. I'll hop it with him and go any first chance I get.
Okay, don't lose it.
Don't worry.
I'll stay here till you call back. Do it as soon as you can.
Okay.
Denton's waiting for a bus. Guess he's coming down here, too.
It's funny they're splitting up.
Jim's going to ride the bus with him and call me here as soon as he can.
Good. I'll quickly locate him. Then come up to the office. I'm going up there now.
Hey, what if French and the girl get here without Denton?
We'll have to figure that out when it happens. I'll check up with the boys on the way up. Tell them to stick around close.
Okay. See you later, and good luck.
Same to you.
Leaving Ryan at the drugstore stakeout, Molyneux crosses the street, gives whispered last-minute instructions to the 3 men loitering at the entrance to the building, enters the offices of the loan company, where he is met by a highly nervous official. Assuring him that nothing can slip, he hides in a little booth from where he can see the official but cannot be seen himself. The minutes tick slowly on, and then, suddenly, Lieutenant Ryan hurries through the door, approaches him.
Something's up. Ray just called me, and Denton's down at the recorder's office. Looks as though he was waiting for someone.
Oh, what the devil. Hey, wait. I've got it. Look, Ryan, you stick here with me. When I knock French over, you take the check and beat it downstairs. Get it sent over to Denton at the recorder's office by special messenger.
What's the idea?
I'll explain later. As soon as you sent the check, get over there fast and watch what happens. You see him take the check, pick him up. Get it?
Yeah, I think I do.
Good. Come on into this booth here. French and the girl ought to be here any minute.
Okay.
Flatten against the wall there.
Yeah.
This way we can see them, but they can't see us.
Yeah, we hope.
Right.
Hey, wouldn't we feel silly if they'd gotten wise and left us flat-footed? Hey, you don't suppose anything like that could happen, do you?
It could, but I have hopes that it isn't.
Well, time will tell.
Wait a minute. Quiet.
Good morning, Mr. French, Mrs. Crandall.
Good morning. I understand my check is ready.
Oh, yes. That's right. Quite right. I have it right here.
Good. If you'll be so kind as to hand it to Mrs. Crandall.
Oh, yes, of course. Mr. French.
He's making the girl take it.
Not so good. He's a smart lad.
Here you are. $1,500.
Thank you. All right. I'll take it now, Mrs. Crandall.
Here you are.
Now, let's go. Just a minute, Mr. French.
What? Say, what is this?
You might call it an arrest. Come on, put out your hand.
What does this mean?
That's what it looks like, French. The end of the line. Oh, just take that check. Thanks. Yeah, Ryan. Get this over to our friend Denton as fast as you can. I'll keep Mr. French and the lady company till you get back.
Leaving Molyneux and his prisoners at the office, Ryan carries out instructions, and 10 minutes later he watches Denton pocket the check, lets him walk out of the recorder's office into the street, then promptly places him under arrest. Returning to the loan company with Denton handcuffed to him, he rejoins Molyneux.
So here we are, all together. Pretty smart idea of yours, Denton. Waiting to record this transaction till after you got the check. That way, if anything went wrong, you wouldn't have a forgery rap at the recorder's office.
Look, wise guy, I'd like to know one thing. How the devil did you get on to us?
Well, I'll let you in on it, but for one thing, French. You're going to have such a long time up there with nothing to do that I'd hate to deprive you of the pleasure of figuring it all out for yourself. You're a pretty smart fella. This will be a very simple matter for you. Come on, let's go.
French was found guilty of grand theft and conspiracy against the loan company. And on May 12, 1932, he was sentenced to 1 year on the county road gang, 5 years probation, and fined $500. On December 9th of the same year, his probation was modified, and he was released. Denton was found guilty of forgery and conspiracy, and on May 6, 1932, Judge Barnett of the Superior Court of Los Angeles sentenced him to San Quentin Penitentiary to serve a term of from 1 to 14 years. The girl was held as a witness during the trial and later released.
Thank you, Chief Davis. If you could make tests of your gasoline as city and county purchasing departments do, you would never again be satisfied with anything less than the police car performance of Rio Grande cracked gasoline. You could not be induced to buy slow-burning, sluggish brands. You would use the same gasoline that Los Angeles, Oakland, Alameda, Fresno, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Maricopa County, Arizona, and many, many other cities and counties have used in their police cars, fire engines, ambulances, and other emergency equipment. Rio Grande cracked gasoline with tetraethyl. And you would use Sinclair motor oils, too. These completely de-waxed, de-jellied, longer-lasting motor oils are produced by the same nationwide organization that originated the famous patented cracking process, which makes Rio Grande cracked the best gasoline you can buy. Get your copy of Calling All Cars News from your independent Rio Grande dealer. Learn how you can help some boy or girl become a junior detective with free gifts of police badges, fingerprint outfits, handcuffs, sirens, and other valuable items. This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley. Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by the Rio Grande Oil Company.
San Diego Police calling all cars. Attention all cars. Broadcast 154. Go to the Prescott Hotel and investigate a report of a murder. The body of a woman is found in a room. That's all.
Did you know that the biggest users of gasoline, the city and county purchasing departments, make scientific tests before they specify a gasoline for use in their great fleets of emergency equipment? 4 main questions must be answered.
Which gasoline starts quickest?
Which accelerates fastest?
Which delivers most power?
Which is most economical to you?
On this basis, Rio Grande cracked gasoline has repeatedly won against all competition in Los Angeles, Oakland, Fresno, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Maricopa, the largest county in Arizona, and in many, many other cities and counties throughout this territory. This success is due primarily to the Sinclair cracking process. From one of the world's most modern refineries comes this balanced gasoline, Rio Grande cracked with tetraethyl. First,
quick starting.
Second,
fast acceleration.
Third,
surging power.
Fourth,
mileage.
These are the factors that cause Rio Grande cracked gasoline to be used exclusively in so many, many police cars, fire engines, ambulances, and other emergency equipment. These are the factors that give police car performance. Try Rio Grande cracked gasoline in your car. Do this tomorrow. And now it is our pleasure to present W.A. Huggins, Secretary to Chief of Police Sears, San Diego. Mr. Huggins.
Good evening. The San Diego Police Department has had many strange murders to solve, but the case of the girl in room 9 was one of the most incredible cases to be found in our files. Detectives investigating the circumstances surrounding it found themselves literally face to face with a blank wall. There seemed to be no clues to go on, no reason for anyone to have committed the crime. And yet, there was the brutally beaten body of a woman lying in the morgue to spur them on in the hunt for the killer. A hunt which led them from one end of San Diego to the other and back again before they finally got a lead to the murderer's identity and managed to arrest him. But as you will see, despite the many difficulties they encountered, despite the lack of clues, in the end, the killer was brought to justice, which once again goes to show that when a person resorts to murder, no matter how careful they may be, the chances that they will get away with it are less than 1 in 100.
San Diego, May 15th, 1918. The year that is to write Venus to one of history's bloodiest chapters, the war to make America safe for democracy. From every state west of the Mississippi River, a solid line of men pour into the training camps, the good and the bad, the rich and the poor, all reduced to one common denominator in the final desperate drive to meet war's demands. More men, more arms. It is a few minutes after midnight when 2 sailors from the USS Vicksburg, on shore leave, amble erratically up the street, come to a swaying stop in front of a little transient hotel where they have rooms for the night.
Steady, George, me boy. You're rolling in your own wake.
I'm doing nothing of the sort. You're the one that's doing the rolling.
I'm rolling. Listen, sailor, I practically carried you out of that joint we were in. You must have been planning on drinking the place dry.
And I would have, too. If you hadn't got so drunk, I'd have taken you home. What do you think of that, huh? What do you think of that?
I think maybe we better go in the hotel before we get thrown in the brig. That's what I think.
That's a good idea. Come on.
This way.
Ah, this way.
Listen, sailor, I said this way. What are you trying to do, start an argument?
Sure, anytime.
Oh, come on, George. You can't even see where you're going. I'll take you right to our room. Now, come on, stop yet.
Ah, so you don't want to fight, huh? You got cold feet, have you?
No, all I want to do is to get you out of this hall before the landlady throws us both out. Come on. Up these stairs. Easy. That's the spirit. One at a time. One at a time.
Don't tell me how to walk upstairs. I was walking upstairs before you were born and down them, too.
Sure, I know all about it. Easy. That's it. One at a time.
One at a time. One at a time. You sound like a gramophone record that got stuck in a groove. One at a time. One at a time.
Shh. You want to wake the whole hotel? Come on. Here we are. Room 8.
Oh, no. Room 9's the one we're in.
Now, listen, George. What do you want to be so stubborn for? I know what room we're in, and it's 8.
9.
All right, but shut up.
It's room 9.
Sure, room 9, but shut up. Here we are. Now see if you can stand up till I get the door open.
Sure I can stand up. Why wouldn't I be able to stand
Quiet. There. Now, come on.
I'll turn on the light. I can't see in the dark. Only owls can see in the dark.
All right, wait a minute. There's your lights. Hey.
What's the matter?
George, look on the floor.
Oh, what's the matter with the floor? I don't see... Oh.
A woman.
What's she doing in our room?
Listen, George, snap out of it. This woman's dead.
Dead?
Yeah. Look at her throat. Somebody's murdered her.
Murdered? Let me see.
Look at those finger marks on her neck. Looks like she'd been strangled.
Yeah. Hey, look, Al, what are we going to do? We got to let someone know. Maybe they'll think we did it.
That's why you got to sober up fast.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sober right now.
Then come on. We got to report this to the landlady.
Shocked into instant sobriety by the horror of their discovery, the two sailors rushed down the hall to the landlady's room and tell her about it. And in less than 20 minutes, Chief of Detectives Joseph Myers arrives at the hotel, where he is met by Officer O.U. Martin. Together, the two men look at the bruised and beaten body and then question the landlady.
What is your name, ma'am?
Anna Johnson.
Anna Johnson, eh?
Yeah.
Well, tell me, Mrs. Johnson, just what happened this morning.
Well, I was asleep in my room. Room 12 it is. A little after 12, I was waked up by someone pounding on the door. When I opened it, there was 2 sailor fellows there. They told me there was a dead woman in their room.
And what did you do?
Well, I got up and put the robe on, and then we went to the room, and I saw it was Clara, and she was badly hurt, so I called the police.
Well, do you know of anyone who might have wanted to do this to Clara?
Oh, no, I know of no one. She was so sweet, like a sister.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Johnson. Deeply sorry.
Thank you.
How long has she been employed here?
Several months.
Married?
I believe she was. But she was separated from her husband.
Anything happened last night that might throw some light on this?
Nothing that I know of. I came home from a show, and Clara had company. A girlfriend and her sweetheart. Oh, they was good friends of Clara's.
No chance of their doing this, eh?
Oh, no, they was her best friends.
Well, what happened then, Mrs. Johnson?
Well, they went home about 10 o'clock, and Clara and I had a little food to eat, and I went to bed. Clara came to my room because I had a headache, and she brought me some aspirin. Then she left for her room, and I went to sleep. The first thing I remember after that was the sailor boys waking me.
And that's all you can remember?
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Mrs. Johnson. Don't let anybody touch that body, Sergeant. I'm going down to talk to those sailors.
In the small lobby of the hotel, Myers questions the two sailors, satisfies himself that they have no connection with the murder. A close check on the rest of the hotel guests brings no clue, and Chief Myers turns his attention to the hotel register. Suddenly, his eyes come across one name that bears no address after it. It is written on the page dated May 14th, 1918, and shows the room number to be 7. With this slim lead, he returns to room 12 and once again questions Mrs. Johnson.
Mrs. Johnson, there's something here that doesn't quite jibe with what my men have found. I thought you might be able to help.
What's that?
This name on the register. Jack Cree, as near as I can make it out. Who is he?
Jack Cree? Jack Cree? Oh, yeah. I remember now. He was a soldier.
He stayed here last night?
Yeah. He came in early in the evening before I went to the show. I rented a room.
Room 7, is that right?
Yeah.
The boys looked that room over, Chief. The bed hadn't been slept in.
Any sign of him?
No, sir.
Then I'll stake my bottom dollar. He's the lad we want. Look, Martin, get a description of him from Mrs. Johnson and any other information you can get. I'm going to call the office and get Stevens over here to run this down.
A telephone call to the police station results in the arrival a short time later of Detective H.C. Stevens, who, after learning all he can from Chief Myers, takes charge of the investigation. His first move is to re-question Mrs. Johnson.
There's very little doubt in my mind about this Cree fellow's having done the job. The only trouble is, who is he and where is he? You've got to help us in answering those questions, Mrs. Johnson.
All right. I guess I will have to tell you then. But I had hoped this wouldn't be necessary.
What do you mean by that?
This soldier, the one you was asking about, He did something that I didn't want to tell. He followed me into my room last evening after I had showed him his. He began to act terribly. He tried to make love to me.
What did you do?
I told him he couldn't behave that way in this hotel and forced him to leave. He called me a dreadful name as he went down the stairs. A terrible name.
Was the last time you saw him?
Yes.
Martin, Chief Myers telling me you have a description of the man. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I just got it from Mrs. Johnson. There you are.
Oh. Approximately 33 years old, dark complexion, 5 feet 7 inches tall. Not much to go on with about 100,000 men in uniform in San Diego alone.
Pretty slim.
What about this girl that was killed? Has she ever had any trouble with any soldiers or sailors, Mrs. Johnson?
Well, yeah, once she did. A few weeks ago, 4 soldiers from Camp Conway was here, and they accused her of having stolen $40 from their room. But the military police who came to investigate told me later that the soldiers had lied. That was all.
I see. Thanks a lot, Mrs. Johnson.
Yeah?
I guess there's nothing more we can do here for the time being. Keep an eye on things, Martin, while I do a little canvassing of the neighborhood hotels. It's a pretty thin lead, but this Cree fellow might have stayed somewhere around here after he got through his dirty work. We're following up anyway. I'll be back later.
So Detective Stevens begins a tour that takes him from one small hotel to another, up one street, down the next. And finally, as he is just about to give up, he enters the 12th place, the Aspen House on 5th Street, and for the 12th time asks the same question.
Did you have anyone come in early this morning and ask for a room?
Is this in connection with the murder over at the Prescott?
Yes, it is.
Well, there was a fellow came in about 5:30. He was plenty drunk and he acted sort of nervous-like.
Yes?
I told him the room would be $1 and he forked it over without saying a word. But he refused to register.
Refused to register, huh?
Yes, sir, and that's not all. I got a look at his hands and they were scratched. There was blood on them, so help me.
Go on.
I thought to myself when I seen them that they looked like fingernail scratches. But it wasn't none of my business, so I didn't say anything. Anyway, he left a call for 8 this morning. And when I went up and woke him, he jumped up and stared at me for a minute, and then he slammed the door in my face.
Is he here now?
No, sir. He left about 20 minutes ago. It was an awful hurry.
What did he look like?
Well, he was about 35, 5 feet 10, I'd say. Weighed about 170, black hair, gray around the temples, and wore a dark suit with a box coat and a black fedora hat. I figured he was a gambler by his look.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Hey, where you going?
Want to get that description to every policeman in San Diego.
Thus, the first real clue of any importance, and the start of a sweeping dragnet of San Diego. Police bulletins describing the mysterious Jack Cree are issued to every man in the San Diego Police Department, to all bus and train station officials, with orders to arrest and hold if located. And while every available officer in the city looks for the fugitive, Detective Stevens pays a visit to the 4 soldiers who had claimed the murdered woman had robbed them. And though he exhausts one clue when he finds their alibi perfect, he stumbles on to another that sends him to the Naval Training Camp at Balboa Park, where he interrogates one of the sailors.
I understand that you're a friend of Ed Bolus, is that right?
Yeah, I know him.
How well?
Well, we run around together a good bit. Guess I know him as well as anyone.
Well, tell me something. How did he and Clara Minor get along?
Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Did he ever have any trouble?
Well,
Here, have a cigarette.
Oh, thanks, I will.
It's all right. Keep the pack. Plenty more where they came from.
Oh, thanks. Cigarettes are pretty scarce out here these days.
Yeah, I figure they were. How about Ed and Clara? How'd they get along?
Well, they had a little trouble. You know how it goes, another woman and all that. Ed was engaged to Clara, but he sort of fell for this Mary Bedford. It was quite a mess.
Well, what happened?
Well, this Bedford woman got jealous of Clara and tried to commit suicide. And then when it didn't work, she told Ed he'd better watch his step or she'd make a good job of it next time and kill both of them.
I see. You know where this Bedford woman lives?
Yeah, I'm afraid I've talked too much right now.
Now, wait a minute. You don't want to shield a murderer, do you?
Well, of course not.
What are you talking about? Talking too much already.
I guess I didn't realize what I was saying.
That's the ticket. Where does she live?
Over at the Hotel Dinsmore. You know, it's in the same block as the Prescott.
Yeah, an odd coincidence, isn't it? Bolus would like to get rid of Clara because she was an obstacle. Mary Bedford would like to do the same because she hated Clara. She lives in the same block Clara was murdered in. I'd say quite a coincidence.
Questioning of both Mary Bedford and Ed Bolus leaves Detective Stevens with a great many doubts as to their alibis. But not wanting to make any direct accusations until he has proof, he has them both held in technical custody as witnesses and then proceeds to run down the many other loose threads of the case. And as each day goes by, it leaves him with some new development. He learns that the janitor of the hotel, a man with a past record, has been missing since the morning of the murder. And immediately word is flashed over the police communication system to be on the lookout for him. Several men are paraded before the landlord of the Aspen House and promptly released when he fails to recognize any of them. The murder of Clara Minor begins to assume the aspect of a huge cobweb, each clue stretching out like one of the web's infinitesimal strands. And at last, with hundreds of leads to run down, each one vitally important to his case, Detective Stevens talks to his superior, Detective Inspector Paul J. Hayes, and requests another man to assist him.
I'd like to be able to do it, Henry. You know that without my saying it. But we're up against the wall for men. All the boys are out on jobs.
Isn't there just one you could get away from some other job and let me have?
Not a chance. As a matter of fact, I just assigned the last one I had to the Clover robbery deal. You know the one 2 sailors robbed and beat him the other night?
Yeah.
I've got plenty of trouble over that. Every citizen in San Diego is on our necks to get the ones who did it.
Well, I guess that settles that, huh?
I'm afraid so, Henry. I know what a tough nut you have to crack, but it's all yours.
All right, Inspector. Thanks anyway. Hope you come out all right with your Clover deal.
Thanks. If I don't, I'm liable to be looking for a new job. At least I will if the citizens of San Diego have anything to say about it. I'll beat it before you think of something else you want.
Right. Goodbye, sir.
So, Henry Stevens carries on his investigation alone. One by one, he eliminates his leads. Patiently, he wades through the mass of information he has gathered, checking this item, throwing away that item. And when he has checked every known point against the other, he finds himself with at least 3 possible suspects. Edgar Bolus, the ex-convict janitor, and the mysterious missing soldier, Jack Cree. Follows days upon endless days spent in training camps, in saloons, in hundreds of dives where soldiers and sailors meet to drown out the cares of the day with women and alcohol. Always the same question foremost in his mind.
Pardon me, buddy, but do you know of a Jack Cree in this outfit?
Jack Cree? No, I never heard of him. Where's he from?
Never mind. Doesn't matter where he's from. Oh, Steve. Steve, you happen to know of a soldier by the name of Jack Cree?
Nah, I make it a habit not to know soldiers' names. Sailors neither, for that matter. As soon as they get to know you too well, they start asking for drinks on the cuff. It ain't good business.
I'm looking for a man by the name of Cree, Lieutenant. Jack Cree. You happen to have one in your outfit with that name?
Sorry. There's no one by the name of Cree in the 40th Division. Was there anything else?
Thanks anyway. I hadn't figured there would be.
So it goes, day after day, night after night, and still no sign of the missing man. Days drag on into weeks, weeks into months. The Clara Minor case fades from the front page of the papers. The outraged citizenry of San Diego gradually forgets that there ever was a girl named Clara Minor. Forgets that there ever was a Clover robbery case. But Detective Stevens remembers. Never does he slacken his vigilance for a moment, and time passes. February 1st, 1919. 9 long months since the brutal murder in Room 9. In the office of Captain Frank McGraw of the United States Intelligence Service, a captain of the guard stands. 2 young soldiers from Camp Kearney in his custody.
Sergeant Kelly, sir. Reporting with Privates Willis and Waterman.
All right, men, relax.
Thank you, sir.
So you're Willis and Waterman, eh? Tom Willis and Alan Waterman, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, men, we've caught up with you at last. And that's going to be pretty tough on both of you.
What do you mean by that, sir?
You know only too well what I mean, Waterman. That watch you men pawned has turned up in Oklahoma. And it was pawned there by a girl who was a sweetheart of one of the boys in the 21st. You're from the 21st, are you not?
Yes, sir, but I don't know nothing about no watch.
Well, how about you, Willis? Your memory any better than your buddy's?
No, sir. I don't know what you mean, sir. I never pawned a watch anywhere.
That's right. You didn't pawn it. But one of you gave it to a girl, and that girl made the break. Now, how about it?
You don't know nothing about it, Captain, and I don't know neither.
Afraid he might spill, eh, Waterman? Well, I think you're right about that. I think he will spill when Detective Sears and Kelly get talking to him.
Those boys have a way with them that usually gets results.
And a short time later, detectives George Sears and Harry Keller join Captain McGraw in his office, where they're informed of the results of his questioning. Realizing that the younger man, Willis, is almost ready to talk, they have him brought in without Waterman.
Sit down, Willis. I want to have a little talk with you.
Yes, sir.
You're pretty young, aren't you, Willis?
Yes, sir. I guess so.
About 16?
17, sir.
Young looking for his age, isn't he, Captain?
Yeah. Pretty nice looking, too, for a boy who'd go around robbing people.
You know, I don't think Willis planned that deal, Captain McGraw. I have a pretty good hunch that his pal cooked the whole thing up and got him mixed up in it. Now, how about that, Willis? Isn't that what really happened?
I don't know what deal you mean.
Why, sure you do. You remember old man Clobber, the fellow you and Waterman beat up and robbed? That's where you got the watch.
I didn't hit him.
Oh, Waterman did, huh? Now then, why don't you tell us all about it? Might just as well, you know. Might go a little easier on you if you came clean.
I'm afraid of what Waterman would do.
Well, you needn't be. Detective Sears has enough on him right now to send him up for a nice long stretch, even if he never talks. So you can tell him anything you want to.
Is that right, Lieutenant Sears?
That's right, Wallace.
Then I'll talk. I'll tell you the whole thing. Waterman and I did do the job. But I didn't want there to be any violence. He told me we'd just stick a gun in the guy's ribs and take his money away from him. Honest, I didn't have anything to do with the beating end of it. I even tried to stop Ellen when he started hitting him.
So the young soldier, 17-year-old Willis, cracks under the skillful questioning of Detective Sears and Captain McGraw, blurts out the whole story while a stenographer takes it down in shorthand. And when he is finished, Detective Sears realizes that his long job is done. The Clobber robbery is solved. Then, suddenly, as Willis is about to leave the room, he turns, looks back at the two men for an instant, and then...
Captain McGraw.
Yes, Willis?
There's something else I'd like to tell you, too. Something I've got to tell you.
All right. Start in.
Waterman killed that woman over at the Prescott Hotel. He came back to camp the next morning and told me so. He showed me his hands. They were all clawed up. I had to tell you, Captain. I couldn't hold it any longer. It was burning a hole inside of me. I had to tell you.
Convinced by the youth's sincerity that he is telling the truth, Detective Sears immediately phones Stevens, tells him to come out at once. And in less than 20 minutes, a police car screams to a grinding stop outside. Detective Henry Stevens rushes into the office.
Well, what's up? Hello, Henry. I think we got the lad who killed Clara Manning.
What?
Yep. He and another lad are the two that pulled the Clobber job. Just a few minutes ago, the younger one cracked and voluntarily told us that his partner, Waterman, had done the Prescott job.
Is Waterman here?
Right in the next room under guard.
Well, hang on until I get back. Listen. Have a line of men with this Waterman among them, will you? I want a positive identification.
Rushing back to town, Stevens bundles the landlady, Anna Johnston, into the police car with him and heads back for the camp. Arriving there, they discover a full company standing at attention in the driveway. Asking Mrs. Johnson to follow him, he walks down the line of men. Halfway down the front rank...
There is the man.
How can you remember me after such a long time?
Because you called me that horrible name. That's why. I could never forget you.
Well, Waterman, I guess that settles your future for a while. Come on, I've got a lot of things to ask you. I'm warning you right now, the answers had better be right.
But Alan Waterman refuses to talk. For hours, Stevens hurls questions at him, and the answers to each one is always the same. Waterman will not crack. Then Tom Willis is led in to stand face to face with his partner. Slowly, haltingly, fear staring out of his eyes, he repeats the story he has told McGraw and Sears. Then, suddenly...
All right, kid. You can stop talking. I'll do the talking from now on. I killed that woman. I jumped at her as she passed the door to the room. I beat her down, and then I strangled her. With these two hands, I strangled her. Just the same as I'd strangle anybody else who made insulting remarks about soldiers.
You can go back to the other room now, kid.
Thanks.
She said the soldiers was no good. And so I decided to kill her. I waited out in the hall until she passed, and then I grabbed her. She didn't even have time to yell.
Is that your only reason for killing Clara Minor, Waterman?
Yeah, that's the only reason. She said what she did. I knew then that I'd have to kill her, and I did. I strangled her with my bare hands. And then I took a lace from my leggings and wound it around her throat till she stopped moving. No one can talk about soldiers that way and get away with it, because a soldier is the finest person in the world.
And now it is our pleasure to present District Attorney Thomas Whelan of San Diego. Mr. Whelan.
Alan Waterman was one of the strangest paradoxes in the history of my office. The almost unbelievable reason he gave for having brutally murdered Clara Minor led many to believe he was insane. At his trial, it was proved conclusively that although he was suffering from a form of hysteria, brought on, no doubt, by the uncertainty of the times and the World War, yet he was perfectly capable of thinking clearly. It was also proven by the prosecution that he had actually planned the murder in advance. On May 5th, 1919, he was sentenced to San Quentin to serve from 10 years to life. His younger companion pled guilty to the Clobber robbery, and in the juvenile department of the Superior Court, he was sentenced to Preston Reformatory at Ione to remain until he reached his majority.
Thank you, Mr. Whelan. If Rio Grande cracked gasoline is so full of snap, so full of speed, so full of power, says the skeptical motorist, how can it also be so economical? Now, that's a fair question, and here's the answer. By the patented Sinclair cracking process, gasoline is so thoroughly broken up, that is, so thoroughly cracked, that every possible atom of energy is available for instant combustion. No unburned gasoline drips down your cylinder walls. No raw gasoline escapes through your exhaust. More of each gallon is turned into power. That's why Rio Grande cracked gasoline is more economical. And that is also why Rio Grande gasoline powers more police cars, fire engines, ambulances, and other emergency equipment wherever it is sold than any other brand. Parallel in importance to the Sinclair cracking process for gasoline is the refining process used for Sinclair motor oils. Here it is a case of doing the same job as others, but doing it better. Sinclair Pennsylvania and Sinclair Opaline are thoroughly de-waxed and de-jellied. They flow more freely, stand up under harder abuse, and last longer. Therefore, they make your car last longer. Go to your nearest Rio Grande independent dealer tomorrow and try a crankcase full. And be sure to get a copy of the latest Calling All Cars news, thrilling detective stories, radio and movie news, and free gift news for the youngsters. All about the free Junior Detective and G-Man outfits. How you can get a dozen different free gifts just by using a few gallons of Rio Grande cracked gasoline.
San Diego police calling all cars. Attention all cars. A cancellation broadcast 154. Suspect in this case now in San Quentin. That's all.
This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company.